Hey everyone, welcome back to Intro to DJing. This is Paul, and in this video what I want to do is show you two of my emergency exit transitions. This is going to be the Reverb Out and the Echo Out. Both very similar, just one uses the reverb and one uses the echo. Now I call these emergency exit transitions because these are very good from going from one genre to another, especially if you need to quickly change directions or genres or BPMs while you're playing music. Say you're at the club and the promoter comes over, the club owner comes over and says, hey, we got this person over here, he really wants to hear hip hop, and you're right in the middle of an EDM set, but if they're spending a lot of money, you need to be able to think on your feet and very quickly go from one to the other. Or maybe just simply the dance floor isn't reacting to what you're playing and you want to change directions. So these aren't the kind of transitions you'd want to do a lot during the night, but maybe a couple of times throughout the night it's okay, especially if you really need to change up the vibe. So to give an example, suppose I'm playing this track at 138 beats per minute. It's a full-on uplifting trance track. And I want to go from there into this sort of R&B stripped down. This is actually, it has a halftime feel. Now, one thing you could try to do is sync these and beat match them, but it's going to be very difficult because the track on deck B is actually halftime. So it's actually at 61 beats, or I guess it would be 66. And that makes it very difficult to go from there to something that's actually 4 on the floor and 138. So what we can do in this circumstance is use a reverb out. So the way the reverb out works is like this. We apply the reverb to the track on the deck that's currently playing. So right now I've selected the reverb effect on here. I'll first show you how to do it here in software, and then we will do it on the FLX4. So basically what you do is you first start by activating the effect. Then what you do is you turn up the dry wet or the strength all the way up. So you want to make sure the dry wet is down before the track, before you apply the effect. Otherwise, it'll just immediately start in, and that's not what you want. So basically, first, make sure your dry wet is all the way down. Second, you enable the effect. Third, you increase the dry wet, and notice how I have the size bumped up all the way to 100%. Then what you do is once it's at 100%, because I've mapped these to post fader, and you can see my video on that on how to do that here in Virtual DJ, but basically then what we do is we cut the fader, that's number 4, and then lastly 5, we simply start the next track pretty much right before we want it to come in. And if we do it right, there'll be this big reverb tail that'll wash over when we cut the fader, and that'll give us a nice ample time to start the next track. So what I'm going to do is sort of walk you through how this works with software. So let's see if I can do that. So first of all, let's go ahead and start by playing this track. And I'm going to have the crossfader here in the middle. So step 1, make sure the strength is down. Step 2, turn on the reverb. I'm going to click on it. 3, increase the dry wet. 4, cut the fader. And 5, press play. Likewise, if we wanted to go from this track on deck B to back over here, we could do the same thing. Once again, we would just activate this effect, turn up the dry wet, and then start this at an appropriate point. So pretty simple, but remember when you're done to bring the fader back up and turn the effect off. Otherwise, if what's going on, and I'm guarantee you'll make this mistake, I've done it all the time, you're going to have the effect on and you're going to try transitioning back in, and you're going to wonder why it sounds like this. And not like that. So just be sure you turn that back off. So now let me show you how to do this on the DJFriendZone FLX4. The DJFriendZone FLX4 has an interesting way of routing the effects. So the way it works is this turns the effect on and off, and then this selects which deck you're looking at. So this is going to be deck A, it says 1. Number 2 is going to be deck B. Notice how that turns on the effect there. And then 1 and 2 will apply it to both decks. But it's very important that you only apply it to the deck you're mixing out of. So now what I'm going to do is do the same thing, but I'm going to walk through it doing this on the FLX4. So once again, step 1 is making sure my level is down and my effect is off. You can tell it's on because it's actually going to be flashing. So let's go ahead and try this. Step 2, turn on the effect. Step 3, increase the dry wet. Step 4, bring down the fader, and step 5, press play. So let me do that again. I'll just do it very quickly this time so you can hear how it would actually sound in context without me, trying to explain each step. So let's go ahead and see what that would sound like. And then once again, be sure to turn your effect off and bring the dry wet down. So that's how we would do it. Now, suppose I want to go from the track on deck B back to the track on deck A. And what I want to do is maybe select a different effect. So I did reverb. Now I'll show you what echo out sounds like. So what we can do here is I'm just going to click on here and select the echo effect. And it's sometimes helpful to do this on both of them. And we want to make sure we select deck number 2, so because we're going to be moving out of this track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically echo this out. This is what this will sound like. Now here in Virtual DJ, you need to be careful. If your strength is basically all the way up at 100%, it'll never stop. So if you're using the echo, you're going to want to turn it down. And unlike some other DJ applications like Traktor or Serato, the reverb in Virtual DJ does not have a long tail. So I often don't use the reverb out if I'm DJing on Virtual DJ. I tend to use other effects, whereas if I'm using Record Box or Serato, the reverb out I use all the time. It just is the nature of the reverb. So it sounds different in DJ programs, so you'll kind of get a feel for which effects you like. So you can also adjust the timing on the echo. So right now it's at 3/4 beats, but 1/2 beat would sound like this. I like that kind of 3/4 beat sound. So let's go ahead and practice this transition. Once again, remember the same tricks as before. 1, make sure your level is down and your effect is off. 2, turn your effect on while the track is playing. 3, increase your dry wet. 4, cut the fader. And then lastly, basically start the track on deck A, on the opposite deck, to get it started. And remember to have your effect mapped to the right deck as we've done in this case. So without further ado, let's go ahead and try what this sounds like. So once again, what this helps to do is smooth over that transition so there are no abrupt stops or empty gaps. You're using the tail of that delay or reverb to smooth over that transition, even though you're going from one BPM into the other. The other thing, notice I'm not using sync. It's not necessary to use sync to do this because basically this is great for switching BPMs when you're going from one type of genre or BPM into another. So especially with the reverb, you don't have any echoes, you don't have anything that's timed. It's just this big wall of sound that's slowly fading out. And from there, you can just kind of start the other song. And really, it just takes practice knowing what songs sound good echoing out of and what songs you can start. I think this song works really well at the beginning. Well, I had the delay on, but it kind of goes right in at the beginning. Songs that start immediately can help really well, whereas some other songs you may have to start at the intro and you may not want to play the whole intro. So get a feel for your different tracks and get a feel for where it's good to mix in. And really it just takes practice and knowledge doing this, but hopefully this will be another trick you have under your sleeve and a really helpful one if you quickly need to switch directions. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.